Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. And today, we're taking a quick look at WWE 2K23. Now, we're not die-hard wrestling game fans, but we have been taking a look at every WWE 2K for the last few years, and it's been a journey, man. After a pretty rough patch, last year's 2K22 emerged as the one that got this newer gameplay formula totally right. They kind of got their shit together and really finally close to perfected the combat system and the content offerings. So now they just got to keep it going, keep it an annual sports franchise game with the updated rosters and new content and tweaks, and that's exactly what they did here. WWE 2K is now at a point of consistency. Now, from our first impressions, it seems like 2K23 is a good time as any to jump in if you're a big wrestling fan. It ain't perfect, but there's a lot of fun in here. Showcase mode this time around is centered around none other than John Cena. John Cena, who I more personally know as Dominic Toretto's brother or Peacemaker, is a heavy hitter with a pretty interesting wrestling history. And if you don't know, Showcase mode is a cool pillar of these games. It's like a mode centered around the career of a certain wrestler, and it's kind of documentary style.
I've dedicated my entire life's work to 3 words: never give up.
So you get John Cena on camera talking about his career with real archive footage of old matches, and then it kind of transitions in and you get to play some of these famous matches. They've done it with Stone Cold, Rey Mysterio, and others, and it's once again just a cool, fun way to play through some wrestling history. It's got cool presentational elements, and it actually seems a bit more challenging this time around. They're just fun to play through, showcase modes. That's it. It kind of all feels like its own little single-player campaign, but instead of like a story, it's a documentary. It has been really creative from the start, and at this point, I end up looking forward to them every year. Now, the actual moment-to-moment gameplay in matches remains pretty much the same as it has been. This gameplay takes some more technical, almost simulation-style wrestling gameplay mechanics and makes it a bit faster and more engaging. Grappling is the same, reversals are still in the same way, combos feel a bit more satisfying. There's now options for how to get out of a pin, either a kind of minigame or button mashing. The submission stuff is also simple, and the freedom is nice. Now, along with that, you can also now bring a kind of 2 selectable abilities into matches for your fighter for the payback system, so you have an option. Payback has a little bit more defensive use cases and flexibility now, and it's still all about managing your meter spends for certain instances. If you don't pay attention and use them in the right time in conjunction with how your stamina is shaking out or how you predict it to be, you could still kind of find yourself in a pretty endless loop of the other wrestler just destroying you with grapple after grapple. It can get a little frustrating here and there because combo breakers are still really challenging, especially if you're starting out. They're basically a crapshoot unless you take the time to really understand the grappling animations and transitions, but it's still all cool and challenging, and winning a match is satisfying, man.
Look at that! Oh, nice! Mysterio with the sunset flip powerbomb. He's got the answer for that one. Oh, directly to the neck.
Modern 2K games are, like I said, a good balance of like technicalness and old school style arcade brawling. It's more on the technical side, but yeah, it's still not perfect. You know, some aspects like positioning stuff can be frustrating, and there's some clipping sometimes with some weird glitchiness, but it is better, and from what I can see, substantially less glitchier than last year. Overall, the raw gameplay is the best part of the game. Even if you're not into the style, maybe you would prefer more Nintendo 64 style action like me, but hey, this is well done for what it is. Now, my only complaints really is that the AI seems a bit dumber this year. Wrestlers will just go for a pin as like their first move when the bell rings. Like, what are you doing? Also, the ref gets in the way sometimes. I don't recall this being a problem last year. Like, dude, get out of the way. Also, it's always just a bummer to have a bunch of the coolest wrestlers locked behind progression and points earning. Sometimes I just want to jump in as a legend, you know? Maybe you like the grind, I don't know. But visually, it looks decent. These games are usually a bit inconsistent though, with some wrestlers just looking and animating and emoting drastically better than others. Like some get more attention because the roster is really big, and that is the case once again here. I'm just here for the matches here though, the bouts, and playing with a friend and choosing from, thankfully, a really long list of match types and styles and modes is great. But then, of course, with that, there's also like a whole suite of other things on the menu. A big roster of content that has grown in the past few years to reach this point. There's Universe Mode with a new rivalry system and a bit more flexibility. There's My GM, which is, of course, the manager sim mode that is updated that lets you have fun with the newest rosters, the drafting, and the strategy if you're a real nerd. Then there's My Rise, this time with like 2 kinds of different approaches. There's both the Lock and the Legacy to start from. Legacy is a playable story career where your aunt is actually a retired famous wrestler. So, being in the family, it comes with its own little story ramifications and challenges. And then there's the Lock, where in this story career, you're kind of like hyped up as the next big thing, and your character is just striving to live up to it. These are fine. Fun enough to play through. They've always been a little cheesy with bad writing and kind of like some whack visuals in the cutscenes, but, Legacy mode that I jumped into seems all right. Then, of course, there's My Faction. To be honest, I don't really mess with that. It's just not my thing. I'm not into card packs and all that stuff. I don't really like this in any sports game, but I guess I'm not the target audience. I like, though, that there are regular online modes with a good amount of options. The online tab has lobbies, leaderboards, and the ability to see community creations and a rotating tonight's match to engage in. And while I am on options, at this point, the amount of things you can create, it's just staggering. You can, of course, create your own superstar, which is always fun. I always like making a weird freak as ridiculous as I can, but then there's all kinds of other stuff. There's custom entrances, custom shows, custom arenas where you're like, picking the look of the place, the actual ring, the lighting, all that stuff. You're also creating like custom move sets. There's just so much here at this point. I know it's not all new, but having it all here up to this point, everything collected, is pretty nuts. Like, you can like live in this game if you're obsessed with this stuff. Either way, like, to be totally frank, not too much more to say about this one. WWE 2K23 is a seemingly solid entry upon first impressions. They cracked the code mostly last year, and they are keeping the train rolling. Quality-wise, it doesn't seem like a hot mess. I haven't seen a lot of glitches or anything weird. And it's still a 2K game, so with that just comes the general 2K-ness and the game harassing you to log into your 2K account and all that stuff. But on the simple side, it is just a fun wrestling game with the gameplay pretty good. I don't think it's like the best thing or the end-all be-all, but 2K at least seems to now be a solid, consistent franchise again. To the point where if we cover the game next year and they just kind of do little incremental updates like this, I don't know what I'm gonna say in the next video. But hey, that's just a before you buy. Some very quick first impressions. We hopped into the game this weekend. Some pros, some cons, and some personal opinion. And now we want to hear yours, of course. What's your experience with this franchise? Have you jumped in? Did you pre-order the big special edition to play it early? Let's talk anything WWE 2K23 down in the comments. If you enjoy these videos, we put out videos every day. Just click the like button. It helps us out a lot, and we would really appreciate it. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Just defeated the franchise at WrestleMania.
Here is your winner, Xavier Woods.
And it's celebration time for Woods, finally beating Cena in a showcase-worthy effort.
Great job by Woods, but now they're at 1-1.